Under the Eye of the Clock, the life story of Christopher Nolan. And he had cerebral palsy that was so severe that he never spoke a word in his life, but he was up there with James Joyce as far as being a writer. He was a brilliant, brilliant writer. And I want to read from his, in order to tell his story without being maudlin, he calls himself Joseph Meehan. Okay, but this is his life story, and I want to read an important part of it. Crestfallen by crippled freedom, he pulled as best he could. Sensing his heinous horribleness of hope, he cried once only. Nora never gobbled up her son. Sensing how difficult life was going to be, she spoke, resurrecting hope when there was no hope at all. Feeling his frustration, she looked on in silence. Fashioned babyhood was bubbling in his broken heart's hollowness. He was only 3 years old when he cried the tears of a sad man. Crooked now, his tears creaked now. His tears coursed down his face, but better now, reasoned his mother, then fobbled off for future festering. Sun shone that day long ago in Corcloon. Yvonne, that's his sister, was gone to school. Asleep in his blue bed, Joseph looked the picture of pleasant, childlike thimble work. Nora serenely simpered as she lifted him. Washed and powdered, he sat on her lap. Fondly, she slipped the ginsai, that's an overcoat, over his blonde head. His head tilted boldly forward, then suddenly it shot backwards. He faced his mother. He gazed his hurt gaze, lip protruding, eyes busy in conversation. He ordered her to look out the window at the sunshine. He looked hard at her ear, ordering her to listen to the birds singing. Then, jumping on her knees, he again asked her to cock her ear and listen to the village children out at play in the schoolyard. Now he cheered himself. He showed her his arms, his legs, his useless body. Beckoning his tears, he shook his head. Looking at his mother, he blamed her. He damned her. He mouthed his cantankerous, why me? Distracted by his youthful harshness of realization, she tried to distract him. Lifting him in her arms, she brought him outside into the farmyard. Come on till I show you the calves, she coaxed. His lonely tears rushed even faster. He knew why she tried to divert his boyish questioning. He childishly determined not to look at the calves, and shaking his head, he gazed the other way. His mother tried again. Look over at the lambs, she said, pointing at the sheep feeding at their trough in the field. He cried so loud he brought her to her senses. All right, she said. We'll go back inside and talk. Placing him in his chair, she then sat down and faced her erstwhile boy. Yes, her golden-haired accuser. Meanwhile, he cried continuously, conning himself that he had beaten her to silence. Looking through his tears, he saw her as she bent low in order to look into his eyes. I never prayed for you to be born crippled, she said. I wanted you to be full of life, able to run and jump and talk just like Yvonne. But you are you. You are Joseph, not Yvonne. Listen here, Joseph. You can see, you can hear, you can think. You can understand everything you hear. You like your food. You like nice clothes. You are loved by me and Dad. We love you as you are. Pussing still, sniveling still, he was listening to his mother's voice. She spoke sort of matter-of-factly, but he blubbered, moaning sounds. His mother said her say, and that was that. She got on with her work while he got on with his crying. The decision arrived at that day was burnt forever in his mind. He was only 3 years old in age, but he was now fanning the only spark he saw, his being alive, and more important, more immediate, his being wanted just as he was. Dread-filled fretting marked Joseph Meehan's scene that day, but that scene and that day looked out through his eyes for the rest of his life. Comfort came in childlike notions. His clumsy body was his, but molested by mother love, he looked lolling looks at his limbs and liked Joseph Meehan. And I thought that you might enjoy that excerpt from Under the Eye of the Clock by Christopher Nolan.